Morning, Cherries fans, and welcome to the latest show here at Up the Cherries in All Departments. It's actually episode 10. Should have happened last week, of course, but unfortunate news with Queen Elizabeth II did mean that we postponed it. However, we have got a bumper show for you tonight, and I am joined by the two main men, Mr. Matthew Harrison. How are you doing, Matt?
All good, Craig. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. And of course, Mr. Sam Harrison. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. Before we get stuck into our first topic, which will be the Newcastle game, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. And a special mention, actually, for Dental on the Banks. Thank you for supporting the channel for a second season. Your support for the channel means so much to us. And, you know, we're very, very grateful for everything that you do for this channel. So, let's get stuck into Newcastle. Of course, you've both been on Newcastle shows yesterday. Do you want to start off, Matt, with your one?
Yeah, can do. I had the pleasure of joining the guys on the Toon review.
Yeah.
And yes, great guys from that channel. It was really nice to go on there. Know their stuff as well. So yeah, it was a nice pleasure to go on there with those guys, and yeah, hopefully we get to interact with them again.
Yep, most definitely. And they will be invited on for our free-for-all show, which will be happening on Sunday night. So, you know, please do get involved. Cherries fans, Newcastle fans, please do get involved on Sunday night. And Sam, you had the pleasure of Mr. John Sinclair. How did you get on?
Yeah, it was a good laugh. Yeah, John was on with his mate Tony and another lad as well. Yeah, they were very detailed about that. Knew a lot about Newcastle. And yeah, I made sure I let them know that Bournemouth were going to come up there and give them a shot this weekend.
Yep, so did I. When I interviewed John Sinclair, of course, for our opposition preview show. You can check out the link after this, watching this video. And I believe it's going to be a high-scoring game. But before we get to that, of course, Newcastle contains some former Cherries. And shall we start from? Let's start from our least favourite person. We know who this person is. You know, he is known by Wee Man prior to his refusal to play after COVID. Um, he's now known by many Bournemouth fans as the Snake, and other names that I can't really say on this channel, because otherwise everybody will moan at me. But yeah, Ryan Fraser. Of course, the memories I've got of Ryan were, you know, in his career up to that last season were good. Would you agree that, he did, especially linking up with Callum Wilson, he did a decent job.
Yeah, I mean, he did more than a decent job in that one season where he had more assists and always up there at the top of the assist charts with the likes of Hazard. He was a favourite of mine. I mean, I've got to say it. He was a favourite of mine. The last season he was with us, I think his head had been turned. I think he felt that he deserved to play for a bigger club. Obviously, he was heavily linked with Arsenal at one point. He didn't have a great last season with us at all. He was really poor. It was just the attitude at the end of the season. And funny enough, the guys on the channel I was with on last night mentioned about his attitude as well, towards like the game in general. I think it was poor. It wasn't needed. The club was in a relegation battle. I mean, if he had have signed the contract, played his heart out to the end of that little contract, and then left the club, I don't think anyone could have really criticised the guy. Callum left. He wanted, he had England ambitions. He left. We sold him to Newcastle. You wish the guy all the best, but in the manner he did things, it wasn't right. And that's why, unfortunately, I mean, people call him the Snake and things like that. I just call him the Scotsman. Because he did do a lot of good. He, like we said on the special show we did the other day, he excelled after that Liverpool game. And he was a good asset to the club. It was just a shame in the manner of that last season, really.
Yeah, completely agree. What's your take on it, Sam?
Yeah, at the end of the day, he did a hell of a lot for us. Like, as I mentioned at the Liverpool game, he played amazing coming off the bench. And I think he got mad on the match that game as well. In that last season, as Matt said, he didn't have a great season at all. And the manner, the way he left, if he signed a contract, played and left, everything would have been fine. He would have been a legend. That's it. But he really dug himself in a hole when he left the way he did. And funnily enough, I was chatting to John and his mates yesterday, and they all said that they hope he doesn't play Saturday. They want a youngster to play.
Yeah, funny that, because I'm pretty certain the channel I was on mentioned that they hope he's not playing. So yeah. I don't think he's overly liked by the Newcastle fans. So that's got to say something, isn't it? I mean, the Newcastle fans love their players. So for the Newcastle fans not to like someone, that takes a lot. So, yeah, I don't think he's very favourable up in the northeast.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I don't think when he first went there, people didn't really take to him, did they, in Newcastle when he first got there? But eventually he's built himself up, and he's had some good games for them. But I don't think he set the world alight. And there was all the talk about Arsenal, of course, back during that COVID period, and a long time ago. Now on this channel, you can find the interview as well. I spoke to David Beckham's old agent, Andy Bernal, and he actually made the point. And I asked him about Ryan Fraser and what could have caused it, and I said, "Is it his agent?" And he said, "I don't think so." He said, "I know so." And that says a lot. That shows exactly what players go through, that their agents will be saying in their ears, don't play those games. Now, what Ryan Fraser should have done was like, right, we're in a relegation battle. This man, Eddie Howe, has stood by me. He sent me on loan to Ipswich, brought me back, was really effective in that promotion season. gave him the opportunity, you know, in the Premier League as well. And really, I think Eddie, towards the end, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the stress that you could see on Eddie's face was caused by the Ryan Fraser situation. Yeah, of course, there's Hawkeye. Of course, there's the VAR at Burnley. But it was something that was within Ryan's control. And I don't think, will he ever be forgiven?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, I don't think the fans would welcome him back as a player. I don't think the fans, you know, we like to welcome a lot of our former players back in some sort of capacity at the club, and I don't think he would be welcomed back in sort of any capacity, to be honest. And I'm pretty certain the majority of fans would agree.
Well, let's talk about the next man, who, of course, was on our books for a period of time, and then did leave after that first season in the Premier League. To be honest, he's a man that I would bring back tomorrow, despite his age, and that's Matt Ritchie.
Yeah, very well thought of by the guys on the channel that I was on with last night. They thought very, very highly of the guy, but they think he's a little bit past his sell-by date now. Would I welcome him back? I would love to welcome him back, but would he make the impact that he's made before? I don't think he would. So I think and the guys I was with last night were quite surprised that they'd heard a rumour that he wanted to go back to Pompey, and from what I've read, it seems that that's true, and I think that's going to be his natural progression, that he's going to end his playing days at Pompey. Fair play to him, total respect for that. He wants to go back to where it all started for him. And he would be a great asset for Pompey, especially if they end up staying in League One again, which, you know, they're a massive club to be in that division. But, you know, if Nick Cowley don't get him up this season and, you know, he's released by Newcastle at the end of the season, then he'll be a massive asset for him in that division for a couple of years. So I think that's going to be the natural progression there for Matt Ritchie, and fair play to him on that, really.
And what were your memories of Matt Ritchie, Sam?
Yeah, he was a great player, bursting down those wings. He was a very good player. But funnily enough, on that show I was on yesterday, they didn't even mention Matt Ritchie, which really says it all with his career at Newcastle now. Like Matt says, I think it had come to a point where he'd head back down south where it began and finish off there.
Yeah, I would love to see him back at this football club. Could he do a job this season? I think he could do a job. I don't think he would be a starter. He'd be an option off the bench. I think, you know, a 1-year deal at the start of the season would have been sensible from the club. I don't think he was demanded too much in mega wages. You know, it'd probably be on par with what he had here before, but it would have been low risk. And, you know, he was brilliant. You know, bombing down those wings, you know, helped us, you know, get into the Premier League, was brilliant in the Championship, was brilliant that first season. Of course, he did score against us as well in that 2-2 draw, and he scored that goal to equalise that game. So there is, you know, I think he's been a fantastic player, a fantastic servant for this club, fantastic servant for Newcastle, and, you know, it's a shame we didn't take up an option just for a 1-year deal, which would have made sense, I think. So somebody who can make an impact off the bench and can potentially change a game, which he could, couldn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely had that ability previously. So yeah, you know, you've made a very valid point.
And let's go on to, of course, the third player, and of course signed from Coventry. I think it was £3 million.
Yeah, Yeah, 3.5, something like that.
and was wow. He was brilliant, and his goals got us into the Premier League along with Brett Pittman and Jan Kermorgan, but Callum Wilson was a different class, wasn't he?
Yeah. Go on, Sam. You know a lot about strikers, so you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, he was a completely different class for us. Unfortunate for his injuries at the time, he had a couple of setbacks, didn't he, with us? But yeah, definitely getting us up to the Premier League. He scored vital goals and scored some vital goals in the Premier League. But yeah, obviously he wanted to move away, which was sad. But yeah, he left in the right way, other than Fraser didn't.
Yeah, and he's done very, very well at Newcastle. It's a shame he didn't get more chances with England. And
The thing is with the England front, it was similar to like the guys were saying. Like I'm sure they probably said it on all the channels that we've been on over the last few days. But the injuries, that always seems to come up. Now, if you go back to the first season we're in the Premier League, and his hat trick,
yeah,
Upton Park, he was on fire from that point. And I honestly believe that if he hadn't have had that first ACL, I believe he probably would have left Bournemouth at the end of that season if he had had a good goal scoring season. He definitely would have been in the England squad. And we probably would have made some very, very good money out of Callum. To have the same injury successively is a massive, massive thing for a professional footballer to come back from. For him to do it twice, he's an absolute, credit to himself. But I think he's having similar issues at Newcastle where he just can't seem to stay fit. And like the guys were saying on the channel I was on, that he kind of misses goals, and I think he is missed by the Newcastle fans. I mean, for me, I think I would say probably this would be his last season at Newcastle. I think the striker they've signed is
Isaac.
Zach. They've been monitoring that guy for quite some time. He's come in, had a good debut against Liverpool. Yes, he also scored against Liverpool, so that's always a good debut for a striker. I think he will probably take hold in that team now. And I think, unfortunately for Callum, I think eventually Isaac would be the number one striker there.
Yeah, and you never know. You never
Which
know.
is a shame because he's a great finisher, a great striker. It's just the injuries have really, really hampered him.
With the injuries in mind, if Newcastle did decide to move him on at the end of this season, and considering he's still got his house down here and everything, do you think he would actually come back to this football club?
That's a good question. I mean, some players have the mentality where, you never go back. A lot of players have done that before, and they've never had the same impact as before. I mean, you look at Ronaldo at United. That's just probably like a world class example. If it was a case of Callum coming back and not having the same impact, then I think I'd probably would rather him not come back and remember him for how good he was for Bournemouth.
Yeah. But there is those situations, like when I spoke to Carlton Palmer the other day, where he was a legend at Sheffield Wednesday, and of course he was coming to the twilight, to the end of his career, and he was at Coventry, and of course he went out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, and his view was don't go back. His view was that, but he really helped them along with Efanakuku, to actually pull themselves clear of the relegation zone in the old Division 1. So it goes to show it could happen. And, I think, let's be honest, Callum Wilson is good enough, after this season to still play in the Premier League. It's just whether or not he's fit enough. Would you agree, Sam?
Yeah, I agree totally. It all depends on his fitness. Obviously, next year it depends on where we are as well. Because I know he believes in himself, he is a good goal scorer. And if we were in the Championship, and if he still thinks he's good enough for the Premier League, then he wouldn't come to us. But which we will be, we'll fight through this year and be in the Premier League next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would all depend on the money for him as well. I think if we could pay his wages.
Yeah. Well, we might as well bring in, of course, the main man. I have knighted him myself. I'm not a king, so I can't do it officially. But Sir Eddie Howe of Bournemouth. I there's no words that I can give to Eddie, for what he did for this football club. Everybody knows the story, but if Newcastle fans are watching, just to give you a lowdown. So we were in dire straits. We started the season on -17 all those years ago. Started the season under Kevin Bond. Kevin Bond was sacked after 4 games. And in come Jimmy Quinn and his dog. He's probably one of the least popular people on this channel. We can say that, can't we? Sorry, Jimmy, if you're watching. But I'm sure you're walking your dog instead of watching this show. And it got to Christmas time. We'd been beaten by Blythe Spartans, and Jimmy Quinn was sacked. And in their infinite wisdom, they appointed somebody with no managerial experience at all. It was Adam Murray, wasn't it, who appointed Eddie Howe?
Yeah.
And of course, Eddie Mitchell was part of that team as well. And this man, who had never managed a game before, managed to help the club survive that -17 season, ending in that victory up at Chester, and then, of course, the Grimsby goal that we bang on until the cows come home. Got us promoted following season, went to Burnley, come back, got us promoted again, and then, of course, got us promoted to the Premier League. And finishing 9th one season as well. I don't think there's any words we could give, really, is there?
No. I mean, guys I was on the channel with last night, they absolutely adore the guy up there. Absolutely adore him. And, they can see why we adore him down here. So it's going to be strange. He's going to get his applauds. I'm sure, we're going to give him up there while we're up there. We're going to give him a good reception, which he deserves. But obviously, when that little matter of the 90 minutes of football commence, it's all about us getting the 3 points or something out of the game. All the sentimental stuff would have to be put to one side, which, is what you got to do. And then, after the 2 games that we play him this season, I just wish him all the best. And Newcastle all the best, really, because they've got themselves a great manager there. They've been a sleeping giant for a long, long time, and hopefully Eddie can, really build some foundations there like he did at Bournemouth, and in 10, 20 years' time, they'll look back on Eddie Howe as a great manager, just like what we do.
Yeah. England manager?
100%.
One day. Funnily enough, I said that to John Sinclair and the others, and they were like, please, not yet, not yet. I said, not yet, don't worry. One day,
Well, no, I mean, Southgate, has been in the job for quite some time, and he's done really well in the job. I mean, semi-finals of the World Cup, finals of the Euros. He's done well. Is this his last tournament? Who knows? There'll be a lot of fans that hope it's not his last tournament, but if he gets to another semi-final of a World Cup, how far can he take the squad? It'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, and two names that will be straight in the hat will be Eddie Howe and probably Graham Potter, because I know the FA regard Graham Potter in quite a high esteem. So, and I'm sure they do Eddie as well. So, and I'm sure they want to continue with the English manager, the England manager being English. So, I think they would be two of the contenders that would be in the frame for it. So, I would back Eddie over Graham Potter. Not being biased, but it's like I was saying to the guys last night. Look at what he's done with Joe Linton. Look at what he's done with players at Bournemouth over the years. Getting the best out of somebody. He sees something in a player that other coaches don't see or other people don't see, and brings the best out in them. So I would say he would probably be the stronger contender. And he's probably more suited to the FA as well, I reckon, the way he comes across in interviews and things like that. So, yeah, I think sooner rather than later, hopefully Mr. Howe will be England manager.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all. And I don't know how much Newcastle fans realise what he's done for this club. Of course, they know he got us into the Premier League, but effectively, if we had got relegated into what is the National League or the conference at the time, look at the teams. They struggle to get back out of it. It's a financial melting pot. It would have been horrendous. Eddie Mitchell said the club would have survived. But we would have been living hand to mouth, I'm sure.
But just as well, we didn't have to think about that.
Yeah, thank God for that. But that would have been the nightmare scenario. Of course, Eddie had a dream, built a football team, and got us to the Premier League. There is some more news though that has come out today, and we will get onto the team in the noughties in a moment. I know that you're probably thinking, well, where is the team in the noughties? You will see it in a moment, guys. But there has been some breaking news about Maxim Denim, and this is from Bloomberg UK. So it's not any old news reporting site, is it really?
No.
I'll read part of it. So the owner of AFC Bournemouth is exploring options for the UK soccer club, including a potential sale. Management reached out to a select group of potential investors and buyers in the spring to provide information on the club and its finances, according to a document seen by Bloomberg News. This club has met with suitors. People familiar with the matter said, asking not to be identified, discussing confidential information. It goes on about where we are as well. I'm guessing it's written for the American market, isn't it? But of course, we are owned by Russian businessman Maxim Denim, who bought 50% of the club in 2011, of course, from Eddie Mitchell, and took full control 2 years later. In 2015, Denim sold a 25% interest in Bournemouth to the Chicago-based Peak Six Investments before buying it back in 2019. It goes on to say that deliberations are ongoing and there's no certainty they'll lead to a transaction, according to the people. a representative for Bournemouth has declined to comment. A request to contact Denim via the club was made. So this, and it does mention as well, any sale or investment could value Bournemouth at £80 million. Of course, that's $110 million to £100 million. Don't know what that is in dollars, and that's of course according to Kieran Maguire, who was on this show as well previously. So I will certainly try and get Kieran on for a conversation about that, because that would be a very, very interesting talking point. But when you saw that, what did you guys think?
It's not the first time Max has looked at possibly selling the club. I know he's kind of before we were relegated and early during the championship days, he was kind of toying with the idea. It comes to a point, doesn't it, where we talked about Newcastle. Let's use that as an example. Mike Ashley buys Newcastle, puts the club in the black. And it's very rarely you see a football club in the black.
Yep.
But can't take the club no further. Has Maxim got to the point where he knows he's done what he can at the football club, and if the football club is going to move on to the next level, it's going to need more investment that maybe Max can't provide, or maybe Max can't get the investment to join him at the club to move the club forward onto the next step. I mean, you went to the training ground just the other day, Craig, and there's no movement there. Does the club need a real big cash injection to move it to the next level, which is something that Maxim can't do or be willing to do? For me, the guy has done wonders, since, Eddie Mitchell, stabilised it, brought Maxim in. Maxim took it on and took it to the next level where, even Eddie probably couldn't have taken it. So I think it's maybe reached its natural progression. And the new ownership, whoever takes, I've read tonight there's a consortium, possibly of 5 people from America. Last night I was reading I think I've read that in the Daily Mail last night. So it's, I don't think we can criticise Maxim for wanting to sell. I mean, it's business at the end of the day. But if he can't take the club forward, what's the next step?
Yeah.
Don't know whether you two agree to something similar to that, but I think that's just, Sam, about business, how business works within your industry. It's natural progression, isn't it?
Exactly. I think Maxim's done a brilliant job investing in the club and getting us to where we are today. And it's come to a point now where, say, that he doesn't have the fans or the people that can invest with him, or he's just got to a point where he doesn't want to do it anymore, and it's probably best for him to move on and for a new consortium to come in and invest the money to take us to the next level. This is the perfect time for someone who's really keen and really interested in growing a club to invest in now, in the position we are.
I'm in 2 minds about this, to be honest. Firstly, Max has done an absolutely outstanding job of getting us to where we are today. A lot of praise, and I know that some people, and he's been on this channel, and I know some people say, "Oh, are you saying that because he's been on the channel?" But I honestly believe Eddie Mitchell put in place, the financial know-how and everything. He turned the club around, and then that enabled Max to come in and then bring that forward with the money that maybe Eddie couldn't have pumped into the club or didn't want to pump into the club, which is fair enough. I think we are at a point now where we are talking. The Premier League is built up of billionaires, and whilst Max is a billionaire, how much does he want to spend on keeping the club there? Why I'm in two minds is, firstly, I think he's been shrewd in the transfer market this season. I don't think he wanted to spend ridiculous amounts, which is fair enough. Of course, to compete, look at Nottingham Forest, for example, 150 whatever million, 157 million, I think it was at last count. We can't compete in that pool at all. So I think he is planning to sell it to somebody who has got bigger pockets. But the problem is, and this is where the issue is, you could have a good owner like Newcastle. I know everybody says about Saudi Arabia and everything like that, but Amanda Staveley has come in and done a good job at that club with the backing of the people behind her. And, that's going in the right direction. Look at the Abu Dhabi Consortium took over Manchester City. Look where they got them. You could even label it Abramovich as well. And Abramovich was great for Chelsea, of course, until everything recently has happened. But you could go the other way as well. And look at the likes of Burnley. Last season, they were bought out, and I believe that buyout was leveraged against the club. You have got Wigan, who took over from sensible ownership of Dave Whelan, and that club was flogged and then put into administration straight away. It was a complete and utter joke. I think it was Dave Whelan's son, wasn't it, who was in
100%.
charge there. But of course, the family decided to sell it, believed in the people, and that happened. You could look at Reading, Badesky selling to some Russian whose dad's a billionaire, but he's not. And then that all goes down the pan. And even on a bigger scale, look at Arsenal, look at Liverpool, and the biggest of all of them, Manchester United. Manchester United printed money for fun. Manchester United printed absolute money for fun. The club was sold to the Glazers, and they have fallen back. Okay, they're still, of course, they're a Premier League club. They were probably the biggest club in the world at the time. But that's the danger. That's what I fear, because I'm thinking, and there's a common trend there as well. And Glazers, American, Liverpool, American, and that's why that jumps out as me. I might be being critical. They might be fantastic. The Americans might take over, might be fantastic for this football club. But if you go on what's happened at other football clubs, it puts a bit of fear of God in me. I'd quite like, a Qatari billionaire who's printing money, to take over this football club, because let's be honest, they've got tons. So if there is a Qatari businessman who is a billionaire or a trillionaire or whatever, and fancies a go at a football club, got to be a big football fan. We are in a quite nice area, and if you want me to, I'll drive you around in my Vauxhall Mariva. But that's my view.
No, I mean, yeah, you got to be cautious because the club's been in safe hands, and you want the club to transfer into safe hands. So, that will be a worry. If this sale or a sale goes through.
Yeah.
I think it will. It's going to happen at some point. Let's be honest. It's going to happen to every club at some point where they're going to change hands, because nobody's going to go on forever owning a football club. The Man City owners are going to eventually sell that club. The Newcastle owners are going to eventually sell that club. There is going to always be that transition, but it's whether or not we sell them it to the right person, and that is the thing that is in Max's control, to sell it to the right man.
You've hit the nail on the head there, because, for example, John Sinclair and his mates on the show yesterday, they were talking about obviously Newcastle's takeover, and you see them all there. They're all very interested in the club. They all wear their scarves. They're all standing with Amanda, and they're cheering for the club. You want an owner that is passionate, passionate about football, has intel about the club itself, not just people that have just got money and just chuck it here, there, and everywhere. Like you said with the Glazers at United, look at what's happened there recently.
Yeah, that is my big concern. But hope for when they come in, I would be right behind them. But I think transparency, because Max has allowed this club to be ran by sensible people, such as Neil Blake, Jeff Mostyn, Richard Hughes. He's allowed the club to be ran by sensible people. The last thing we want is an American businessman to come in, get rid of everyone, start buying players that the manager doesn't want, start leveraging that against the club, and then us to find ourselves in, a small stadium with a team that are being paid loads but can't perform on the pitch.
Yeah,
Exactly that.
Be interesting to see how things develop, and when you see it in things like Bloomberg and things like that,
Yeah.
you realise there's got to be some truth in there.
There could be the other side of it. Somebody could come in, buy us for a lot less than what you'd pay for somebody like Newcastle or Man City, and come in and say, right, okay, this is a project, the stadium. Something needs to happen with the stadium, either building the stadium or, what I'd rather, Dean Court's made bigger. If what Eddie Mitchell said, about building the stadium at 22,000 can be done, is that big enough for a billionaire, trillionaire who wants to then, because they want to return at the end of it all.
Thing is though, you don't really make a profit out of football.
No.
That's what a lot of these owners, don't realise when they go into football. They go into football thinking, they come out with, if they sell the club on, they make money. It's not always the case. It might be something that Maxim himself finds out.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how much Maxim bought the club for all those years ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if he made a bit back. But of course, he's invested a lot as well. So
that's what football business is all about.
Yeah,
it's all about the investing.
Yeah.
You don't really ever rarely make a. The club might make a turnover, but doesn't necessarily go into the owner's pocket.
No.
It's going to be an interesting period of time, and let's just hope and pray that, if Maxim does sell, it goes to, like you say, the right owner, or the right consortium, and hopefully the likes of Neil Blake stay in their positions with this new potential ownership.
Well, the next thing we're going to do, because we are around about 40 minutes in already, so loads, of course, to talk about. We're going to do the team of the noughties, and both Sam and Matt have picked their team. So who wants to go first?
I think Sam should go first.
Yep, okie doke. So what we'll do is we will just pull up on the screen teams. So talk us through it, Sam.
So yeah, with obviously the goalkeepers, there were a few during the noughties. And people may look at me thinking, oh, why have you put Moss over Jalal? Sorry, rewind that. Why would you put Jalal over Moss? But I think Jalal's record at Bournemouth really speaks for itself. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, good shot stopper, and there was no reason why he wasn't going to start for me, for my team in the noughties.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as I just mentioned, Neil Moss, it was a very close call for me. I love Neil Moss. I got his goalkeeping shirt back in the day, the purple one he wore with Seaward on.
You're going to have to wear that one day.
You won't fit in.
Yeah, one I probably won't fit in it into. I don't even know where it is.
I know where it is. It's in the wardrobe behind me.
Oh, is it? Yeah, because I know I gave quite a few shirts to Matt, as I know he likes to hoard them all. But yeah, Neil Moss was another fantastic goalkeeper. And yeah, it was a hard one for me, that one. But yeah, moving on to the defenders. Again, obviously there are a few which have been missed out again, because you could include several more. But for my starting lineup, I kept with Warren Cummings. He was my favourite player back in the day. Great left back, great defender. I even was a mascot for the Bristol City game, which we unfortunately drew in the last minute. And he was my favourite player. And yeah, moving on to the right back, Neil Young, one of the fans' favourites back in the day. Right back, number 2, put in 100% every game, was well loved. With, of course, centre backs, there was a few. Sean Mayer was going to come in there, but I definitely thought of keeping in Cole Broadhurst. He made plenty of appearances for us. Another great centre back which got stuck in. My other centre back, of course, you couldn't leave him out. The man himself who brought us to the Premier League back in his playing days. He was a great centre back. And yeah, with the bench, people may think, Stephen Purchase could start, but I couldn't see him get above Warren Cummings or Neil Young for me. Another great defender. And as I said, Sean Mayer, great Irish centre back. And yeah, for the midfield, for left midfield, Klaus Jorgensen, what a player. He scored some great goals for us, as with Wade Elliott on the right wing as well. Wade Elliott was a phenomenal player for me. His attacking speed, goal scoring was excellent for us. For centre mid, it was another hard choice for me, because I know Cole Fletcher, you could put him as centre back, but I couldn't fit him in there, so I kept him in centre mid where he played mostly. Great player for us, scored in the final against Lincoln at the Millennium Stadium. Great day that was. And yeah, put in a great shift as a captain. And Danny Hollins, another great centre mid who scored some good strikes back in the day, got stuck into the game. For the bench, I did feel a bit sad leaving Gareth O'Connor on the bench. He was a great attacking midfielder, put in a shift for us as well. Marcus Browning, as I said, funnily enough, he played in goal for us one game. I remember when I think 2 of our keepers got injured in one game, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He even filled in for us in goal one game. Brian Stock, what more can you say about Brian Stock? He scored the first goal at this new stadium, I believe. And yeah, moving on to the... Am I right with that one, Brian Stock?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, against Wrexham, I think it was the first game.
Yeah.
Strikers, yeah, there's a few that haven't been mentioned. So the few that I haven't mentioned, obviously Lee Bradbury could have been mentioned, Joker 4. But for me, 2 strikers had to be for the noughties, James Hayter and Steve Fletcher. Great partnership. Steve Fletcher, the big man, boot up to him anytime they head it down to you, and they'll even score beauty now and again. James Hayter, of course, scored the quickest hat-trick at the time. Scored goals for fun for us in the League 1, League 2s. And yeah, for the bench, there was only one man that could fill the bench for me. I did a bench of 7 players. Is Jermaine Defoe. Scored 10 in a row. What a season he had for us on loan. Shame he didn't stay longer at that time.
Yeah, and of course, Fletch gets mentioned again. He's been mentioned on a number of these shows, hasn't he? He'll be watching. He'll be watching, and he'll be enjoying it again. So, all right, Fletch. But yeah, no, very, very good side. And some memorable names there. Of course, Wade Elliott, a great player. Jalal as well. Very, very good goalkeeper, and of course the fastest hat trick, Mr. Hater, and brilliant, brilliant forward, and what a partnership he had with the big man.
He did.
Well, do you want to run it away, roll it away, whatever? I don't know. It's too early in the morning, but shall we roll with your team of the noughties, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Right, there we
Here
go.
we go. Right, so there's some legends on the front there. Right, let's start with the goalkeepers. Is there a...
There is a next page. Here we go.
So obviously we've got Sam's point about Chandra Lau. He's actually got the best record of all the goalkeepers that are there before you. He kept 56 clean sheets, conceding 192 times. Whereas the next best one to that is Neil Moss, who's always been a cult hero for me. He went to Saints, come back on loan for us and rejoined us permanently again. Obviously went on to become a goalkeeping coach under Eddie. Young Asmir Begovic, I'm sure a few people remember him playing on loan. 9 appearances, 2 clean sheets, not a bad record. And Gareth Stewart, still at the club now. He's working with the goalkeepers in the first team. Had a number of times over the years where he was number 2, but he did have a good stint as the first choice as well. He made 179 appearances for the club. So there's some good contenders there.
Of course, Asmir Begovic went on to have the best career, of course. He went to Chelsea, of course, at one point. Did come back to the football club in the Premier League, and a very, very good shot stopper. Of course, he was loaned out to Karabag, wasn't he? But then he come back in and was really, really, it did a very, very good job before leaving to go to Everton, which I thought was a strange move.
It's a strange one, but he's been used to being a number 2 as well. And I'm sure he's keeping Pickford on his toes at Everton. So, he was on loan to us from Pompey. Like you say, he went on, played for Stoke, didn't he?
Yep.
I think he actually scored a goal against Artur Boric, didn't he, from his own half, hit the ball and bounced over Artur. So he's also got a Premier League goal to his name. But some nice memories of those guys playing in goal for Bournemouth.
Yep, definitely. Should we have a look at the defenders?
Yeah, let's have a look at some there. Youngie stands out. Obviously, he got into our team of the 90s. Obviously, a veteran. Veteran of our side around sort of 2005. By then, he was classed as a veteran, wasn't he? Really, and used to room with Big Fletch on away days. I'm sure if that's incorrect, I'm sure the big man will let us know.
Yep.
Steve Purchase, great player, could play at left back, right back, even play in the midfield. He's 320 games, 8 goals. Created 5 assists for us. Great player. Carl Broadhurst, from the youth team, come through the youth. Quite a lot of his career was hampered by injuries, but still, clocked up just under 160 appearances for the club. Royce Wiggins, he had a couple of loan spells and signed permanently for us. But unfortunately for him, his career was ended by injury while he was on loan at Birmingham, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
So some good choices there for left back, right back, centre back.
Yep, definitely.
And then if we move on, Jason Pearce, great player. Always used to remind me a bit like John Terry. Just stick his head in where it hurts. Real good old-fashioned defender. Scored a few times for us as well. Put the ball in the net 8 times for us, which is not bad for a centre-back. Warren Cummins. I mean, what can you say about Warren? Used to love watching him at left back. He's quite a few assists. I do remember him setting up a load of goals for us, though, back in the day. Now he's back at the club in the academy set up. Couldn't leave this man out, could we? Eddie
No. Sir Eddie Howe.
Or I just like to call him God, to be honest.
God. God or Sir. Actually, God's probably a little bit more, isn't it?
I would say a little bit. Again, what can you say? Classy defender. Whereas you had a Jason Pearce that would just put his head on anything. Eddie was more of a classy defender, could play out from the back. Also wasn't scared in front of goal either. He popped up 12 goals over his career for Bournemouth. So, he was also not bad in front of goal for a defender. Ryan Gary came from Arsenal. Eventually went on to be a coach under Bradders, but another one who, unfortunately, even when he was at Arsenal, his career just seemed to have been hampered by injuries. But another good classy defender. Now, these ones here, the versatile players. These guys obviously played at the back. They played in midfield. One of them was a striker who was converted to a right back. Sean Cooper played at Pompey. Currently assisting Gary O'Neill in the first team alongside Tommy Alflick. But on the pitch, always used to put a shift in. Wasn't a bad leader either, was captain for a bit. Mr. Tyndall comes a midfielder really from Charlton, but he was converted to a centre-back, played centre-back quite a lot for the club. Again, another one that, struggled with the injury side of things. And obviously we all know the story about JT with Eddie. Carl Fletcher, again, a bit like Tyndall, predominantly a midfielder. But the season 2002-2003 season predominantly played centre back for most of that season, and he was fantastic. Team captain at the time, led from the front. Ended up being a Welsh international, played in the FA Cup final for West Ham, so he had a pretty decent career in the game. Bradders, striker at City. I think he went for quite some serious money at one point from Pompey to City or City to Pompey, whichever way around it was. But, within his 146 appearances, he scored 12 times, but predominantly played as a right back. Not a bad right back either. After Youngie left, he filled into that role and suited it quite well. So that's ones there that sort of kind of in the middle men.
And apart from Eddie, he's the one that has actually stayed in management quite a bit, because he's currently at Eastleigh as manager.
Yeah.
He was previously Eastbourne Borough, and also spent 7 years at Havant and Waterlooville.
God, was he there that long? Was he?
7 whole years, and I believe didn't he get them to the National League? They're a very, very small club, aren't they? But managed to get Havant into the Football League.
The Football League?
Not Football League. No, have never been in the Football League. The National League.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes.
Yeah. You never know. He might go back to Havant and might get him into the Football League. I might have predicted something there, but to be honest, I think it's just my mind playing tricks on me, isn't it? Should we have a look at the next set? So, of course, these are the midfielders. Go on, talk it away.
Take it away.
Take it away. Do you know what? I'm coming out with all of these today, ain't I? I need to put my teeth back in.
Yeah, well, this was quite a tricky one to come up with because we've had some great midfielders over the years. I mean, Mark Mosley will always be remembered for that -17 season, that goal against Exeter. One point, just as Eddie got the job, he was actually travelling back home after the loan move, thinking that he wasn't being signed on again, or he was on a small contract or something like that. And Eddie phoned him and got him straight back down here. So obviously Eddie knew that he was a decent player, and went on to have a good few seasons with us. Obviously been involved in the setup at the club as well, and has had a stint as manager of Southend, Weymouth. Not too sure what he's actually doing now, but he's been a very decent player.
I think he was a bit unlucky, really, at Southend because he took over that club when they were in a complete and utter mess, and they were a complete and utter mess at that time. I think he was on hiding to absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I think he took a tricky job on at a tricky time, didn't he?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think likewise the taking on the job at Weymouth also not very easy.
No, but he had a very, very good stint at Weymouth, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a very good stint, and sometimes it makes you wonder if he'd have stayed at Weymouth, that maybe Weymouth might have even kicked on to the Football League. So, because he had a good togetherness, he kind of had a similar vibe there to what Eddie had in the early days at Bournemouth. But Marcus Browning, like Sam touched on, fantastic keeper if you ever get stuck. Went in between the sticks. I think we had an injury and a sending off that day, didn't we, Sam? Name Chris Tardif seems to spring to mind.
Yeah.
Gareth got injured. Chris Tardif got sent off all the other way around or something like that.
I think Chris Tardif got a black eye.
Or something like that, yeah. By the time he signed for us, though, Marcus Browning was a veteran of the game, and he'd had Wells caps, and good player, good servant while he was at the club. Bit of a good coup at the time when we signed him. I remember when we signed him thinking that that's not a bad addition to the squad. Liam Feeney got mentioned a few times the other night on our show. Great little pacey winger. Reminded me a little bit of Wade Elliott, but obviously he played in the -17 season and come close to promotion from League One with us, and he's quite a journeyman actually. Liam Feeney, is he at Tranmere Rovers now? Is that right?
No, he's left Tranmere Rovers.
Okay.
He's now at Scunthorpe United,
Wow.
who are bottom of the National League, I should say.
He's got to be about 35 now, isn't he? 36?
Spot on, 35.
Is
35. But yeah, of course, he left us in 2011 to go to Millwall. And then went on loan to Bolton and Blackburn, and then ended up at Bolton, where he played in quite an interesting game, or very big game for us, really.
Yeah, I think it was actually him that Mark Pugh. I think he was actually trying to stand up to Mark Pugh when Mark Pugh finished his goal in that game, I think, if you look at the footage. But yeah, fair play to him. He played well for us, and was always a player I was very fond of. Danny Holland's another one. I think he's still playing now, isn't he? Or is he in Gosport Borough? I think he's at.
I would have to check. I think you might be right with that, Matt.
Yeah, I think he recently signed with Gosport Borough, but good midfielder, former Chelsea reserve team captain. In 219 games, he scored 28 goals from centre and midfield and created 6 goals. So, he was a very, very decent player in the centre of the park for Bournemouth.
Do you know what? I've just had a look. How old do you think Danny Hollands is?
I'm going to go with, when did he start saying? I'm going to say 36, 37.
36, spot on. But he's not at Gosport Borough.
Oh, he's not?
He's not, no. And in fact, he's actually playing under another of your team of the noughties.
Mr. Bradders?
Yeah.
Nice. Signed for Bradders, is he?
He signed for Bradders. So, yes. Yep. He is reunited with Lee Bradbury.
And I'm sure he's doing a fantastic job as well.
Yep. Well, I'm just going to have a quick look. 157 appearances he's played there since 2017. So there you go.
Oh, so he hasn't recently signed to Gosport Borough then?
No, he hasn't recently signed for Gosport, unless he signed for Gosport Borough. And let's have a quick look.
I got that information.
Might be right. Hold on. I think we might have a gremlin in the. Here we go. I'm making things up, guys. Making things up. You're right. I'm wrong, and I'm talking shit for the past minute or so. So yeah, sorry. There's nothing new there. Fuck's sake. But no, he is at Gosport Borough. He left Eastleigh recently. So
he left Eastleigh, right? Okay.
Yes. Well done, Matt. And
well, fair play to him anyway. It's good to see you still playing at the ripe old age of 36.
Yep.
I'm 36 and I can't shift around the football pitch quite well like he can. So fair play to him.
Yeah, maybe I should keep my mouth shut, but there you go. I'm keeping that in the show, so don't worry. Leave in the comments what you think of my footballing knowledge of the National League and just tell me I'm an idiot. Right. The rest of the midfielders and noughties.
Yeah, some good ones here. Marvin Bartley. I remember Marvin. Used to love him. Used to love a crunching tackle, did Marv. I think he was last at Hibernian or somewhere like that. I think he's an assistant manager somewhere in Scotland now. But it was always a good, tough tackler, good ball winner. Yeah, I just used to, I used to know when Marv was on the pitch, there'd be some good midfield battles. Like Sam said earlier, Gareth O'Connor, great player, great attacking player. He moved on in the end to Burnley. But I mean, his days at Bournemouth, I mean, he was fantastic. Used to love running with that ball, and he had some real pace about him. Another favourite of mine. Anton Robinson, played his part. Always thought that he was quite a good, solid player. He's currently chief scout at Southend United. He was part of the scouting setup down here, but finally moved on. But 117 appearances, 10 goals. Good player was Anton. Again, I think injury put an end to his career quite an early age. Wade Elliott, probably the David Dickinson boy in the history of Bournemouth. Played playing for non-league Bashley in the New Forest, doing his studying. Next thing, he signs for Bournemouth, and we pay him $3,000. What an absolute fantastic signing he was. I mean, Wade, one of the most exciting players in the league at the time, without a shadow of a doubt. He was easily the most exciting winger, one of the most exciting wingers that, the likes of League 1 and 2 or Division 2 and Division 3, whatever you want to call them, had at the time. Thought he played a lot more games than he actually did, but 166 games, 17 goals, creating 13. We did get a good shift out of Wader. Currently manager at Cheltenham. I think he had a bit of a plastering the other day, but I think they come back from that. So wish him all the best at Cheltenham. Great player. Stocky, Brian Stock, AFC Bournemouth youth product. Player that had a really successful career in the game, with the likes of Burnley and Doncaster. But yeah, you could see that he was going to have a good career in the game when he first started playing for us in the first team. So yeah, that kind of concludes my midfield contenders. But some good names. Oh no, it doesn't. Tell a lie. I forgot about these ones. Oh, John Spicer. Sam, do you remember John Spicer?
I do indeed.
Yeah, we had him on loan for a bit. Eventually signed him for about $25,000. I think that was player share. I think that funded that. Yeah. Good midfielder. Probably should have aspired to a lot more than he actually did. I know he went off to Doncaster. I think he ended up at teams like Notts County, places like that. But he should have aspired to a lot more. He had a lot more promise about him than what he probably achieved in his career. But for us, great player, very, very exciting player. Had a good eye for goal as well. Sammy Igo, again, a bit of a veteran when he come to us, but he put in good shift over the 2 seasons at a very crucial time in the club's life. Current technical director, Mr. Richard Hughes, had a youth career in Italy with Atalanta and signed for Arsenal. Had a good career at Pompey, got Scottish caps, but he was our penalty taker at one time. But I think he went for a bit of a spell missing them and got took off that. But yeah, he hit the net 10 times for us, 92 games, bad return. One of my favourites, got to say, Darren Anderton around this time. World Cup appearance maker, played for Pompey, Wolves, Spurs. And at the time, he was a massive signing for us. I mean, I think he put quite a few extra people on the gate at the time. By then, he was kind of cultured into the centre midfield role. Wasn't on the wings like he used to be, but I mean, he could ping a ball from anywhere. Pick a ball up, look up, ping it, pass it. Still could run a bit, in fairness to him. Remember his debut, he scored a beautiful long-range free kick. I think it was against Scunthorpe. But yeah, it was always great to watch an icon like Darren Anderson play for us at the time because being a former England man and all that, and playing at World Cup '98, and I grew up watching him. So for him to eventually play for us at Dean Court was a pleasure to watch.
Well, let's move on to the strikers.
Yeah, there's a few interesting ones here. Jeff Golding, don't know if you two remember that name. Was said to be the new sort of Big Fletcher in some respects. When they signed him, people were saying he was in the mould of Steve Fletcher. Joe Cafer, a former Arsenal youth product. Bit of a journeyman around the EFL, played for Wickham and Bristol Rovers. And then Sam Vokes. You probably remember Sam when he was chucked into the team. Still in the youth side at the time. Eventually got sold on by the administrator, but he made 59 appearances for us, assisted 1 goal. Scored 16 times. It was a shame that we lost Sam Vokes when we did, because you could see he had potential to do well. Obviously went on to play for Wales as well. I think he played at Euro 2016, wasn't it? I think he was part of the Euro squad. So
yeah,
it's a shame we sold him when we did, but that's when you're in administration, there's not a lot you can do, is there? Apart from the administration selling off your best assets, and at the time he was one of them. So, but yeah, that's those first 3. So some interesting names there.
To be honest, Sam Vokes had a promising career, didn't he? Still has.
Yeah, he's at Wickham now, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
And doing well there. So he's. I mean, I just remember him. I mean, I think it was was it a Tuesday night against Nottingham Forest? He got chucked in and was chucked in, and we turn up, and there was we were like, who's this kiddie?
Yeah, 2006. It was a 2-0 win over Forest.
Yeah, on a Tuesday night, I remember it.
Yeah.
And he didn't score, did he? But I think he looked really, really good in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if he'd stayed at Bournemouth. I think he would have probably had the same impact at Bournemouth that maybe Pittman did.
He did score his first goal shortly after that game. It was a 1-1 draw against Gillingham. Literally.
Is that an away game?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it was 11 days after. Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, 11 days after. Of course, he went to Wolves initially, back in 2018. Spent, was it 4 years there?
2018, 2008, wasn't it?
2008. See, I'm going to Lally today, guys. 2008. So, it would be nice if he was still with us until 2018, because that would have meant that, he would have been here for, quite some time, wouldn't it? And gone through the leagues with us. But, yeah, but 2008, he went to Wolves. Was he in that Wolves team? I'm trying to think of the dates here. Was that the Wolves era where they were relegated twice?
Not too sure. Possibly. I don't really know on that one.
Here we go. Hang on. Let's just have a quick look. Just bringing up the old Wikipedia. It's always a. They were Championship actually when he signed for them. I believe. Let's have a quick look. They did win promotion to the Premier League in 2008, 2009. So he won promotion to the Premier League. He did go on loan to Leeds when he was in there. So he wasn't really involved in that, but he was at the club when they were relegated twice. So he was in the club when they were relegated twice, but he had so many loan spells. So he went to Leeds, Bristol City, Sheffield United, Norwich, and Burnley, before ending up at Burnley and making 230 appearances for them, which of course is where he made his name, really. But yeah, he was part of that team where they were relegated twice, in successive seasons. But it wasn't really down to him, was it?
No, I mean, like I said, it was the administrator on his cell.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look at more of these strikers.
Yeah, Josh McCoy could play on the wing as well. Couple of spells at the club over the years. Also got capped by Northern Ireland. Warren Feeney coming on loan from Leeds. Was always a bit of a fan's favourite, Warren. But I think he kind of did the dirty on us and went to Shrewsbury Town, I think it was. But he's now managing at Welling United. Alan Connell here, recommended by former skipper Matt Holland, who was at Ipswich at the time. Alan was a youngster there. Had a really good start to his Bournemouth career. Then he broke his leg. I think it was away to Exeter. He broke his leg, which kept him out of the game for quite a while. Obviously, we know at the moment he's currently involved in the youth setup. 19 goals in 121 games, but 42 of those games were actually substitute appearances.
Shall we flick on to more? We recognise two of those. Well, we recognise all three of those faces, don't we?
Yeah.
So go on, you take it away.
James Hayter. I mean, you need a quick hat trick. He's your man.
What was the exact time?
Oh, I saw it earlier on today.
I saw it, and I remember it. Against Wrexham.
Against Wrexham. Oh God, was it 145 seconds?
Let's
Google
it. Google is our friend. Believe it or not, there's also a James Hayter that was an actor.
I've just had some news come through.
Breaking news here.
I had a message. TalkSport are reporting that AFCB are close to being taken over by a Vegas-based consortium.
A Vegas-based consortium. What we'll do is we'll hold that thought, and then at the end we shall go through that in a little bit, because I'll have a look and find exactly what has been tapped up. So the fastest hat trick was in 2 minutes and 21.88 seconds. It's even going into milliseconds there. So 2 minutes and 21. So that is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, he scored tons of goals for us throughout the years. And, is there 10 years, if I'm right in thinking?
Not quite. Oh, no, it must have been over 10 years, because he was part of the youth setup in the mid-90s. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, great thing about Hayter as well, he could play up top, he could play to just in behind the front man, or he could play on the wing. So he was also versatile over the years. Mr. Pittman, absolute goal machine. 102 goals, 302 games, with 18 assists. Again, another product of the youth system. We had a good youth system around this time. Used to, and partly because we had to, but produced a lot of good players. And then there's this big target man here.
Yeah, that big chap. Who's he? Who is he?
The best target man ever graced the pitch.
Of course, we know who he is. He is big man.
What else can you say?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he was in the team of the 90s. Will he make my team of the noughties? Is the question. We're soon to find out.
Of course he will. Of course he will. He's got to make any team. Super Fletch. He's an hero in these parts, isn't he?
He certainly is. And manager of the noughties.
Are you taking the piss?
With who?
Jimmy.
He's calling his dog there.
To be honest, I was going to say, how can Jimmy Quinn be even a contender for manager of the noughties. Do you know what? What we should have done, what you should have done, is just put a picture of the dog, because I'm sure the dog would have done a better job than Jimmy did.
Well, O'Driscoll, Mr. Bond, and Mr. Howe. I think they're. I mean, Bondy. Not a lot of people liked his football, but like I say, I thought he did well with what he had to operate with. Same with Sean O'Driscoll. I mean, I know he went down, but he brought us straight back up. But
yeah.
So some interest. Obviously, Mr. Howe, we don't need to say anything on, but yeah.
Here's a question, though. Here's a question, Sam. I think you should. Can Matt have Eddie Howe, Sir Eddie Howe, managing Eddie Howe on the pitch?
Why not?
Yeah, I think he's, let's be honest, he is God. And the other guy is a professional dog walker, and that's like
Right. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Right, my goalkeeper, Neil Moss, purely because he's an absolute icon, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's a big fan's favourite. Started out, I think he made his debut for Bournemouth back in the 90s as a YTS. Come back and really filled a void for us at the time.
Yep.
So Neil Moss for goal.
So in 2.
Right back, well, it could have easily have been Youngie. And a lot of people will probably be disagreeing with me, which is fair enough. But for me, I'm picking Ritchie. Great little young player. Like I said, versatile, could play at left back as well. Could also play in the midfield. So, and scored a few good goals as well over his time. So, for me, Ritchie gets right back.
You throw me here. Where is number 2? Or are you number 2 going to be a
No, I've actually used their squad numbers they wore.
See. Up here for brains, down there for football.
Left back and the joker of the pack. Warren Cummins, couldn't be anybody else at left back for me.
Mm-hmm.
Great player.
Yep. Right, let's go to centre back.
And team captain.
Yeah.
Callum Fletcher, like I say, for what he did that season when he filled in at centre back, for me, I thought he played some of his best football for us. And quality player.
And
Mr. Jason Pearce, number 5, Jason Pearce. Again, just fantastic defender. And I think him and Callum Fletcher would have complemented each other pretty well. So, Jason Pearce gets the second centre-back spot for me. Yeah. Centre midfield was tricky. But for me, I loved watching Darren Anderton. Absolutely loved watching him. Probably retired too early, but obviously we know the story all behind that. But he probably could have carried on for another season or two. So it was disappointing to see him retire. But while he played, it was an absolute privilege to watch him week in, week out. Danny Hollins, for me, alongside someone like Anderton, again, similar like centre backs, they would have complemented each other well. He wasn't scared of a tackle either, would always get stuck in, wore his heart on his sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
Also was captain at some point for us for a little while, so always led from the front. So he gets my... He had, and actually the interesting thing with Danny Hollins is he had a lot of squad numbers while he was at Bournemouth. I think he started with the number 12, ended up with 19, and then eventually moved to number 14. So he was a bit of a number jumper. So I just gave him number 12.
There we go.
Couldn't leave this man out.
No.
There's no way on this earth I could leave this man out. Fantastic player, Wader. So yeah, the tricky winger, number 11, Wade Elliott. Right, so for me, out wide alongside the likes of Wader, I'd have to put Jamie Hayter in. This was tricky because I couldn't leave Hayter out and I couldn't leave the next man out. So for me, for his goal scoring exploits, I had to keep both these guys in. So for me, because he's more versatile, I'd play Hayter on the wing. Yeah, Pittman. How can you leave him out? You can't. I mean, his goal scoring exploits. He had to be in this team. So yeah, that's why he's in here. He's. I'd always rated him really highly. Sam, you're a striker. Your thoughts on Pittman? You rated him, didn't you?
Yeah, obviously it was sad to not see him get go in the Premier League after he scored for us in every other league he played in.
Yeah, yeah. And
we said this the other night as well, didn't we? That I think he would have scored in the Premier League.
Yeah,
if he was given a chance.
I think you're right. Yeah. And finally,
you can't leave that man out.
How can you leave that man out? I mean, the likes of Hayter and Brett Pittman would agree. This man would have took a lot of pressure off him, and he absolute icon, isn't he? I mean, you cannot leave this man out. And how important was he during the noughties?
God,
he was important in the early part of the noughties. With promotion, and then coming back, and the rest is history. So this man had to be in there.
And if anybody is watching and wants to find out more about Steve Fletcher's story, because it is an incredible story where he played through injuries and everything for this club. And then, of course, the call to come back to score that goal. Do watch the interview on here as well, because it is very, very interesting for any football fan. You don't even need to be a Bournemouth fan to enjoy Steve Fletcher's story here.
And 7 substitutes, just quickly run through them and the reasons why. Shran Jalal, best goalkeeping record really of the decade, so had to be in there. Carl Broadhurst, I always rated him, but like I say, injuries, but was always a good servant to the club, good player. Brian Stock, class little midfielder. Same as John Spicer. Both went well. Brian had a real good career. John Spicer probably should have had a better career than he did have, but both very talented players. Bradders plays up front, plays it right back. You got to stick him in, didn't you? Jermaine Defoe, definitely in there for me. Sneaks in there as a late one. He was only on loan at the time, but the impact he had for us was massive. And Maxi Gradle.
And I'm guessing the next slide is going to be your manager, which I'm guessing is probably going to be Jimmy Quinn.
It's a manager with a twist. Player manager.
See, you've thought this out, and to be honest, I didn't look at this beforehand, and we were saying this, wasn't we? Of course, Sir Eddie, we knew it was going to be him. There's no other manager it could be.
No, but if he was fit and you needed him, it'd be fantastic on the pitch as well, wouldn't he?
Oh God, yeah. And he is gonna go. Well, he's already right at the very top. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays at Newcastle. That he gets them competing or winning the title. You'll get him into Europe. That is without a shadow of a doubt. He'll probably do that this season, at the very least. But I think if England have a poor World Cup, I wouldn't be surprised that phone ringing at Newcastle. And do you think he would take it?
Well, the England job,
Yeah.
you'd have to, wouldn't he? You don't turn down the England job.
No. And
my favourite kits. I had to chuck this in because there were some great kits in the 90s, but yeah, that was my favourite home kit and a couple of favourite away kits there from that decade.
yeah.
Loved the yellow one because it just reminded me of the old yellow coaches kit that I couldn't fit in at the time. But yeah, hey ho, that wraps that up. Huh?
There we go.
Oh, here they are.
Yeah. Well, so that was the team of the noughties from both Matt and Sam. We'll leave another 10 minutes at the very max. But whilst I am looking for this article from TalkSport, we have, of course, our games of the week. And by all means, you can all get involved in this in the comments section. Put your predicted results to these games. Do it before Saturday, of course, because otherwise you're cheating. But here we go. We will take the predictions from you now, and I'll make my predictions. And of course, Chris, if you're watching, get involved and make your predictions as well, and any fans. So, who wants to go first? And then, well, actually, should we do it game by game, and then I'll ask you each.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, obvious one: Newcastle United versus AFC Bournemouth. I'll tell you my prediction for this. I'm not going to change it. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be two teams really going for each other. We're playing the way that Eddie used to make us play in that second half against Forest. I think, and I'm not going to bet against us, 4-3.
Oh, interesting.
Go on, Sam.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a tough game to start with. Newcastle will start well, may get the first goal, but I think we'll go on to win it 2-1.
Matt, what are you going for?
I said last night on the Toon review, 2-1 Bournemouth.
2-1 Bournemouth. So we've all gone for a Bournemouth win. So fingers crossed we are correct. So the next game, this is on Sunday. Everton versus West Ham. This is a weird one because Everton aren't particularly very good, but West Ham haven't really had a good start, have they? But I think out of the two teams, I think West Ham are the better team. I'm going to go... Actually, I'm going to go for a draw in this one because Everton have got some points, where you wouldn't expect them to. They drew against Liverpool. And to be honest, they scored in that game and that was ruled out. So I'm going to go 1-1. What do you reckon, Sam?
I'm going to go for 2-2.
I'm going to go 2-1 Everton.
2-1 Everton?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. So, third game, we have got Tottenham Hotspur versus Leicester City. Now, is it going to turn round for Brendan Rodgers? Because I think he's on borrowed time now. I seriously think he's on borrowed time, Leicester. Personally, I think Spurs will have too much for Leicester. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Spurs win.
Well, you got the same as me then. I've put 3-1 too.
And I've put 3-0.
3-0 to Tottenham. So we're all thinking Tottenham are going to win against Leicester. And I think that's going to cost Brendan Rodgers his job, isn't it?
If that result don't, I'd imagine the next one definitely will.
Yeah. Well, let's drop into the Championship. So one game from each, the Championship, League One, League Two, and then there's a weird one, of course, that you can see at the end. You probably don't know what the logos are, but I'll explain it. So Middlesbrough versus Rotherham United. Rotherham started very well for a promoted team. Middlesbrough have started terribly for a team that everybody thought was going to be there or thereabouts. And I think form is going to continue because Rotherham have been impressive with the results they've got. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Rotherham.
Oh,
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Middlesbrough.
I'm gonna go with a 0-0 draw.
So we're all. That's a big decisive one, really. So this one's going to be quite difficult as well. Derby County versus Wycombe Wanderers. Now I've picked this game mainly. Derby have recently been beaten. Wycombe have recently got a victory. Also, there was all that scenario with Mel Morris, and there's bad feeling between these two clubs. Maybe not the fans, but you know, the old Derby owner and the current Wycombe owner, there's bad feeling. I think Derby. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here.
I've gone for a 2-0 Derby win.
I've gone 2-2.
So yeah, that will be an interesting game. It'll be interesting to see what happens there because I don't think the Derby fans are particularly too fond of Wycombe. The Wycombe fans aren't particularly too fond of Derby, so that will be an interesting one. And from League Two, another one that's been thrown in there, but is quite two sides that should be should they be doing better than they are? Not really sure. Carlisle versus AFC Wimbledon. Wimbledon, of course, recently relegated and have made some decent signings on paper, but they don't seem to have done anything. Carlisle seem to have had a little bit of an upshoot, but they're both very, very similar sides. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw.
Carlisle got to travel all the way up the country to go there. I think they will win 2-1 tomorrow. Yeah.
Every time I put Wimbledon down on a football bet, they let me down. So I'm going to say Carlisle 2-0.
Fair enough. And actually, that's an interesting factor. Of course, it's a bloody long way, Carlisle. We've been there before. And yeah, it's a nightmare of a place to get to. So let's be honest. Are Wimbledon going to travel in by a private jet or?
No.
No, exactly. Right. So those weird 2 logos at the end, they might not be weird if you live in Mexico, of all places. So any Mexican fans, hello. But those teams are Mazatlan. Hang on, Mazatlan Football Club versus Club Deportivo Toluca. Right. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about these two teams. I don't know why I picked them. I'm going to go. I think Club Deportivo have been in the Liga Mex longer. So I'm going to go for them 2-1.
Because I haven't got a clue, I've just gone for straight down the middle, 1-1 draw.
Do you have a clue, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going for a 4-0 home win.
See, he's looked at the stats, hasn't he?
No, I swear to God, I haven't. I'm just going to go 4-0 home win.
4-0 home win?
Yeah, I've got no idea what they're called, who they are, where they play, what they are. So I'm going to back the home side and they're going to win 4-0. They're going to smash them.
Well, they do sound like your name though, as well. That's the thing.
Oh, do
Is
they?
that Mazatlan? Hang on, let's get back up on here. Mazatlan Football Club.
Ah,
And what year were they formed in?
whatever
MM.
MM and XX is.
That's a new club, isn't it?
Yeah, they're on fire. They're going to smash them 4-0.
Well, there we go. There we go. Well, of course, there has been the breaking news recently. I have been able to find it actually whilst we've been doing that. So I'm sorry about the hiccups there. But go on, Matt. You've got it popped up. Tell us a little bit more about it.
I haven't looked at it. I just literally had a message then saying that it was on Talk Sport.
Talk Sport. Fair enough. It might not have made its way to the pages as yet. I can just have a look at the wonderful world of Twitter because that might hold.
While you're having a look there, Craig, should we launch the Up the Cherries in All Departments Hall of Fame?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Cool. Okay, have you got the bits ready for the screen?
I will just get that to pop up now.
Right. Okay. So as from 5 p.m. tomorrow night on all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, you'll be able to vote for your choice to go into the first player to go into the Up the Cherries in All Departments Hall of Fame. So yeah, naturally, first man up for the contendership, well, up for the Hall of Fame is Steve Fletcher. Obviously, over 700 appearances, over 100 goals, and still with the club now as the current first team coach. So he's our first person you can vote for. So get voting on Twitter. It will be 14th of August. October. Sorry, August, going backwards here.
Yeah.
October, 14th of October on Cherry Picking, we will announce the winner. Second one is Neil Young. Just under 500 appearances for Bournemouth. He was part of the Wembley team in 98 and the playoff final in 2003. These first three contenders are actually the top three appearance makers in the club's history. So that's why we've gone with these three first. And lastly, former manager, former player, playoff winning manager, Sean O'Driscoll. So those three candidates would be on the likes of Twitter and Facebook on various different polls. Get voting and we will find out who the winner is on the 14th of October.
Right. Okay. So I've managed to, whilst you were doing that, managed to go onto Twitter of all places, and I have found an article. It's been released literally this moment. So it is brand new. So it reads, and this is from The Guardian, PA Media. A Las Vegas-led consortium is pushing to buy Bournemouth, the PA news agency understands. The club's owner, Maxim Denim, is thought to be weighing up whether to sell, with US investors ready to pay $150 million. An American takeover at Bournemouth would mean that more than half of the Premier League clubs had minority or majority US shareholders. Right, these are the people. I'm just having a quick read through this. No, of course, Todd Bailey and Bear Dad Egbali bought Chelsea, didn't they, from Roman Abramovich? It doesn't name who they are. unfortunately, at this moment in time. The club have been contacted for comment, but haven't made anything so far. I think this is probably going to roll on for the next couple of days, if not all next couple of weeks. But there's something going on, isn't there, in the background?
Looks that way.
So we shall see. We shall see. But thank you, everybody, for joining us on this 10th episode of Cherry Picking. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button, and everything below. We will, as soon as we have anything with regards to the takeover, any new information, we will let you know on here as well. So please do hit that bell button because it will pop up. But until the next show, up the cherries, and I'll see you in the next one.